Hello everyone, good evening. Today is December 4th. Welcome to another episode of Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. Um, Decent day, nothing much. There was not much. There was a lot of job, and this morning I will discuss the SPY QQQ, what market was doing. We were able to get some decent wins, a couple of small losers. The money is still flowing in the smaller caps, and the large mega caps are giving up. We'll talk about Apple and Microsoft shorts, Netflix short. We will talk about that, how market is doing there. We'll discuss our how we managed coin trade, Uber, how we managed Uber trade, the win on CVNA in the morning, long win on CVNA. We'll discuss all that, guys. Before I start, this was our watch list this morning. It was Meta short, um, coin we managed, spot was a loser, Uber only a winner on the half size, CVNA was winner, IBM was also on watch list. We'll take a look. Did not trade that. Then we'll discuss SPY, QQQ, Apple, Microsoft, and Netflix. And this morning, as always, this was the plan. So as always, I was up 45 minutes before the market open. I was going through, we do a market summary in the morning. Then I go through all the pre-market movers you can see here. Go through bunch of the news sources, review all the pre-market movers for the community. And we look at, these are all the pre-market movers. We look at the notable news flow. CVNA was a notable upgrade by JPM, just like how I teach in my webinars. Bitcoin names were on a watch list again. So, and these were our levels for the day. You can take a screenshot and review how they panned out. Definitely noteworthy were Netflix, NVDA, Apple, Microsoft, which we will discuss. And these were our levels, and we were ready for the day. As always, I had before the market opens, I give a bias for every play. I give my what I am looking at, the levels and how they panned out. We will go through them and check them out. All right, guys, let's start with our first play. So CVNA was our number one play this morning. The plan on CVNA was simple. The levels were clear. I gave a level of 36 and 36.50. So you can see this 36.50 level. That was the first risk level to maintain a bullish bias. And then there was a level under it, 36. And then this was a pre-market highs breakout. So that was the plan, bullish to neutral. I'm always bullish. Whenever the 34.50 EMA holds, I'm bullish. So as soon as it started to break out of this pre-market highs, and that's when I said, it was already moving here, and this candle right here, pre-market high candle, as soon as it pushing higher, that's why I wanted to long it, and that's when I longed it. 40 Cs were the calls that I was trading, and then we just took a starter position here when it pushed higher, and my target was 40. So my first target was 40 into 10 a.m. So yeah, as you see, higher lows, higher highs on each candle, and there was some chop here, and then we did hit our 40 target, and then we even pushed higher into our 41 target. So almost we got a $2 per share. 40 calls moved decent. Then I was holding. I was holding my play. Market was giving up. I was holding my play to see if we get next leg up. I personally stopped out. I locked my profit, in the money. You lock half size here. When it's breaking down, you lock half of them. But I missed this move back up. This move reclaimed 512 EMA Clouds, although it was still bullish. My plan was I would add any pullback, and I got sidetracked. I was never able to add, but then you see this flag breakout, and then it pushed back higher up into 42s, right? So you can see here my guidance, my target was 40, higher lows. But I did say we will lock into 10 a.m. So we always lock into 10 a.m. By 10 a.m. we were already $2 move on CVNA. I said good to lock, and then we were looking for the next leg up, and then it pulled back, and then I had 1/4 left, and then I finally closed it, and I was out of the trade, but still I made a good money. It was a good trade for us. But then secondary move came, and few traders in the community were still long and still trading it. They had a good push on CVNA. CVNA is still on my watch for tomorrow. We'll keep a watch. But just this is some example that sometimes the trend breaks and is reclaimed. If you are in such a situation, then your final risk is always 3450, or this level. It could have easily pulled back here before the bounce. But this always happens. If I had a price alert, which I usually have, I would have got back in this position and traded it back to 42. But nevertheless, it was a green morning trade for us, and I was happy with the profits. But we keep learning. Next time I'll make sure that I keep eyes on CVNA if it reclaims this. So it's a good lesson in case you miss this move as well. It's a good lesson because you need to see that 3450 EMA trend was never broken. It was still bullish. The only reason we were locking the profits because of our morning trades, we had to lock, and we could always add back. In this particular case, I would have added back, but I got sidetracked. And I did say it. If you see here, I was like, I'm watching the pullbacks again once it pushed over, but it never gave me another entry. The 40 cents went 100% if anybody held from the morning in the community. So this was the CVNA trade. Win could have been a better winner, but happy with what we got. So before I go to the individual names, I want to talk about SPY and QQQ, our morning short on SPY and QQQ. And I was I was on voice, as always I'm on voice, and as soon as I saw the heaviness on QQQ, and that's what I said, that you should stay short on QQQ. You should short it. I called a short call on QQQ. As you know, let's look here. So let's go back, breaking down. So you can see it was under the previous day lows, right? If we go to our levels, let's look at our levels. Let's see if we can find those, and I'll show you that what our levels were saying. So if you see here, the QQQ, the support pivot was 386, SPY was 455.22, and if you see here that the 386 support gave up already, right? So it was gave up, and then it finally gave up around here. So it was a bearish trend. It was a bear flag, and that was the short. And that's when it was breaking down, that's when I said again that stay short. You can see here when I said stay short, do not long. So still heavy. My target QQQ, you can see I was still staying it's still heavy. Stay short, do not long. And then we did cover up some right here in 10.25. So you can see it was a nice short for $3, and the options on the short side moved as well. Same for QQQ. That's why you saw the 10 a.m. crash, because of this. You see 10 a.m. big flush, 10 a.m. big flush. So that is the 10 a.m. concept that I teach again and again. So this was a nice trade short for us on SPY and QQQ. Mostly QQQ. SPY was kind of strong at open, while QQQ was fading right at open, and gave us a nice trade. There was no reason to long. It's a bearish trend. The system is bearish. So we are looking to short, not to long. And that gave us nice profit in first 1 hour. Let's look at our Netflix short, guys. So Netflix, let me show you. So what we did on Netflix, already my morning notes were, if you see my morning notes, I gave a pivot in the morning notes of 461.5. I said has a lot of room to the downside. So I already mentioned that there's a lot of room to the downside, and we were watching the short side. And as soon as the market opened, I was on the voice, and you saw QQQ was weak. So, and Netflix was obviously a great short. I said, the short was moving. Then my target, I said 455 is our first target. Then once we got 455, we started covering, and then I had 1/3 left. My next target was 452, and then 450. But when I saw a buyer at 452, that's when I exited the short right here, and then you can see how much it bounced after we exited the short. So we really timed our trade here. We were really able to time our short setup from morning to the flush. So nice beautiful trade for us. Netflix short again. You look at the hourly is bearish, there is no business going long, hourly is bearish, 10-minute is bearish, and that's how you short. And you can see the daily as well, breaking down the trend line, daily bearish as well. So everything was pointing toward a bearish move. You can see this struggle on daily chart, and then finally the trend change, right? So this was very good setup. It was a clear setup on Netflix short. So lot to learn here. Go back, review, and very proud of this trade. So let's look at spot next. This was personally a loser for me because I'll tell you why. And 194 was the breakout. It was really wide from EMA Clouds, so there was a lot of risk level here. But nevertheless, right, I tried to trade. I started a position, and when then 200 was holding, I started another position for a probable 200 breakout, even though, and then the 10 a.m. market dump came, and then it gave up, and then I had to stop out, right? So you can see my guidance, 200 psych level, watch pullbacks. When I saw this area holding, I really thought we are going to push over 200, but it failed. And we took the loss, got out in a timely way, avoiding any big flush, right? Because it's a big range stock, so you cannot really go crazy big sizes. So we took a loss. I personally took a loss. I did want to short it versus the 200. You can see here, because with the market, right? So you watch the QQQ heavy. I did make money on the QQQ short, so that kind of covered my loss here. But you see, I could have shorted versus this 200 psychological level defined risk, but I never got an entry on that. So study this. So this is a good example here. Loser today. So let's look at Uber, guys. So again, Uber, the plan was pretty clear. There was no confusion. I had given these levels 59.50. You can see here, and the 61 breakout. So plan was clear. So when it pulled back, held it, we started long. We started long versus 59.50 area, from 60. We did get almost $1 move. That's where you cover half size. And I was ready to add more if 61 broke out. But, again, 10 a.m. market flush, Uber gave as well. And I did say, right, 61 calls were moving, but I did say that it could not break out. Still in a trend, but could not break out. It is going to pull back to the lower range. I already said that, and look what happened. It pulled back to the lower range, and after that I was done with it. I just stopped out. I had made a little bit of profit on the first move, and that's why you log half. And because I know if I don't get the first push at 10 a.m., then I'm not going to get a great trade. It's going to be choppy, and I'm not interested in this bounce and scalpy trades. I want a trend trade. I want a big push. So, then I got out of the half size. But you can still see it still bounced from the same level I gave. If you add it again at that level, you still got like 70, 80, 90 cents bounce on Uber there. And then it finally broke out, and then it was a gap fill. And I think few people shorted it when it did this 34.50 breakdown. It was a good short, and I did mention in the gap, where is it? I said not looking good, close last piece. Yeah, so here I said in the gap fill. So in the gap fill. And then I think my target I was giving was 58.50. So it almost hit close to that target. So that was a good short end of the day. Nice short setup later in the day. But overall, I think I executed perfectly personally, and the guidance was spot on these levels. This short, I didn't trade this short, but would have been good. I know some people in community traded it, and you could have recovered some of your chop loss on this trade. So yeah, this shows you how the levels work. So a lot to learn here. So proud of the execution on Uber today. All right, guys. So Meta was on watch list this morning. I wanted to short the pops. So I wanted to short the pops this morning. My targets were 313, 312.90 area and 310.60 area. But then what happened was it did fade. It was faded from. Let me show you on a 2-minute chart. It did fade. it faded from the open. It did fade 314 and gave another bounce 317, and then it faded back again. But this is what I don't like, when it starts to hold a level, start to make higher lows, and I said 318 is the key level. So here is it. I said over 318, be cautious, and it rejected 318 once, came back to 315. But this is not what I want to see in my short, right? So you see this bounce 318 rejected, good short. But when it did this here, that was the bullish signal to close the shorts and maybe long. You can see here EMA Clouds bounce and push, right? So this was the bullish reversal. So that's why my warning was on this 318 level. So I was able to manage it good way and not get squeezed, because I could read this price action on Meta. But regardless, if you got entry at open, you had a good opening scalp into 10 a.m. on the short size. So it really went from 317 to 313, and then later from 318 to 315. So let's talk about coin. So coin, coin was very, very, very erratic this morning. Initially, I was short in the morning. I was short on this this scalp, and then when it reclaimed this level, right? So this level was important. So I got out of my short, because then it was turning bullish, right? So I say scalping to the downside for the gap fill, but then reclaimed. Then I got long, only a small size, 1/3 size, and then so I closed my short scalps, right? And if you were long, you had to wait 1/3 of your long side based upon that. So I saw that holding, right? So that's why I closed my short scalps, and then I was watching flow coming in, and I really thought it's going to push break out of this level. We were long and it was strong, and then finally it flushed, sudden flush again. So I had to stop out of my long again, and immediately I turned bearish again. So short, bullish, and then bearish again, right? So lost on the short. Bullish was break even, because it did push from 143 to 146. It did push like 3 points when we turned bullish, but then the real money I made was on this flush, right? So you see this flush going down, and that was when I short scalped it, right break of this level from 142s to all the way to 138s. My options moved, I think, 25%, and that was good enough for me. And then again it turned bullish. I didn't touch that later, it turned bullish. So this section again, I don't want to be part of this section where it's doing this. I want to see the complete downflow. So when you see this higher lows, a level holding, just get out. Do not wait for a level to reject. You are seeing that there's a buyer at this level, so you cover your shorts and just get out. So yeah, so coin was okay, not an easy trade. I mean, if not for this short that I did, that you see here into the gap fill, then this would have been a loser for me. So that was a good guidance on short on coin. So these are the two names, Apple, right? Because Apple short, bearish, EMA Clouds bearish under the pre-market lows, and then Microsoft short, bearish, and everything bearish under the pre-market lows, fade, right? So Apple under the pre-market pivots, Microsoft under the pre-market pivots. So what levels did I give you? So you see here, right? In the pre-market plan, Microsoft 1 hour, this was your support pivot. Once it breaks, or you use that as a risk to short it. Similarly for Apple, the support pivots 189.50 right here, rejecting, you short it. I mean, I was short QQQ, so essentially I was covering all these plays. But even if you were shorting independently Microsoft and Apple, it panned out. All the levels I gave panned out. And same thing, but I was in QQQ, so basically I was short all these names, because QQQ is basically Microsoft, Apple, right? So so that was Microsoft and Apple shorts from our levels. Let's look at the next one. Other two names that were heavy in the morning was NVDA. I said all bearish, no longs, only short. You see me saying that, and they went to 450. NVDA went to 450. Amazon went to 142. And again, was short QQQ or short these names. So when it's market is bearish, you short these, right? So you see the correlation, you learn the correlation between the market and these names. There was not much rest, although there was this NVIDIA bounce in the end that I was talking about, the double bottom, and I was talking about Netflix. But there was just a small bounce, nothing special, because market stayed heavy into the close. It did spike into the close. You can see this spike. You can see my price alerts going out, SPY crossing, NVIDIA crossing. But the guys in SPX and SPY room, they did good. You can see the lotos and all going in. But but yeah, there was nothing much to do. The swings are doing really good. All the swings that I shared, UPST is doing good. U is doing good here, and our swings, Airbnb pulled down today, but overall the swings were okay. And I think market is decent. Money is just rotating from the mega caps into the smaller caps. So that was it, guys. The CVNA and the shorts in the morning were standout this morning. Spot and Uber and were kind of the choppy and losers kind of this morning. But this Sunday, no catastrophic loss. We were able to survive with some green, so that's good. All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye bye.